The RPA Today Show, hosted by Howze and Wilton Rogers. The show that brings you the latest insights on RPA, robotic process automation, and how it's impacting every industry, as well as interviews with companies that are currently winning big with this technology. You'll also hear from other industry leaders and experts who will be sharing some of their success secrets to help you become more productive and to grow your business. This show is brought to you by Simply Automate, where we help you get more done in less time and more ease for your mind with strategic business automation. Learn more at www.simplyautomateinc.com, and please follow us on LinkedIn. If anything in this show resonates with you, please let us know by leaving a review. The RPA Today Show, where you just might learn something you didn't know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the RPA Show. The show that you may learn something you didn't know, and the thing that you learn may not just keep you in business, but allow your business to do things you didn't know it could do. Get more done in less time, save money, and ease on your mind. That's what we do, and it happens. And so this show is just highlighting people who have had great experiences, business leaders who understand this technology. And my co-host Wilton Rogers really is the automation guy. It's hashtag you follow him online. And the reason why he's the automation guy, because he's the guy that can teach you about automation. He's the guy that helps you understand how to connect you with the robots and have robots come into your organization and robots and people working together singing Kumbaya. He's the one that does it. Wilton, man, thanks for doing what you do.
Hey, man, thank you. Thank you. This is so much fun. Doing a show like this on the RPA show and being able to do what we do and knowing what this is, how this is really impacting businesses and people all over the world, and having fun doing it and bringing on people that are part of that circle or knowledge base. It's awesome, man, because you allow other people to see what's actually really possible and what they can really do. And it really doesn't matter where you are in your level of understanding. You can get it. You can get it and understand it. And if something that's taking off, like the RPA trend is not like this. It's like this.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like crazy, right?
Rocket.
Once people understand, it's like boom. So having a real close inner circle of people that really understand it, or that gave you the opportunity to understand it better, has been pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And the guest that we have on he's I don't know. I don't think he knows what he's done like for me and the company. Like, and I before I bring him on, I don't think he knows the story, but I've known Rafael. I don't know. It's probably 2, 3, 4 years. I don't even know anymore, right? But we've already had a lot of history together in the past, right? And we met when he was at this other company, but he understood RPA, really understood RPA. And I was still trying to figure out my company, trying to figure out the development part and things like that. But I knew what RPA what it could do because I've seen it and that part of it. I'm just trying to put all these puzzles together. And he was really good at a big old part of that, especially the knowledge base, right? And being able to talk to him and he's sharing stuff with us, what he wants to do within this company and what we had the opportunity to do. But then he's also worked with this other company, and they finally, long story short, he says, "Hey man, you guys are doing good." He goes, "But just the personnel that I was working with at the time, and just the structure that we had." He said that we're gonna go another direction. I didn't know what direction that was. Long story short, we ended up teaming up with a company that went the direction with, and now we're partners with them. Like we're like their top partner, their gold partner with them. So our company now would not be what we're at today if it wasn't for the assistance and the guidance of this dude right here, man.
Yeah,
so
100%.
He's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. I second that. Yeah, so I'm going to read a little bit of his bio. So Rafael Casas, this is our Our friend today on the show, he's a consulting technical manager at Oracle NetSuite. All right, so Rafael has 15 plus years of ERP and CRM consulting and advisory experience, building products, designing and implementing complex business critical applications for SMB and enterprise companies globally. All right. Now he's an experienced principal consultant with substantial experience in business process improvement, business analysis, agile methodologies, and product management. A high degree of functional and technical knowledge in the latest ERP, RPA, CRM, SaaS, for those who didn't know what that was, business intelligence and billing technologies. He's extremely passionate about customer success and innovation. Experience in with HCM, payroll, financials, and supply chain for several different lines of businesses across the globe. Rafael, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey guys, it's so good to be here again. I know we've had, like you said, Wilton, we've had a long road and a lot of twists and turns, and it's been a pretty exciting road, and it's been pretty amazing to see how far you guys have come. So, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Our pleasure, man. Our pleasure. And this show is all about opening people's mindsets and ideologies about RPA, because we know we know the benefits of it. And so it's always great to hear people who understand the benefits of it to talk about it. So first, why don't you just kind of share a little bit about you, how you even got to be, so knowledgeable and have all this insight. Let's maybe talk about your role leading up to this.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I, like you said, I've been working in, technology from an ERP perspective with SMBs and enterprise for over 15 years now. So I started my career over 15 years with Sage, huge in Europe, has a lot of visibility here as well in the United States, working in the ERP mid-market, and, worked for there about 6 years. And I moved into large scale enterprise billing technologies for a vendor globally. So we're working with really huge TV companies like DirecTV, MultiChoice Africa. So, the massive companies. And so that's really where my RPA journey started, because, there's a lot of, in these systems, especially the enterprise systems, there's business process automations that are internal within the system that allow you to process a lot of things. A lot of these systems, actually, even small business, are using a certain form of like cookie cutter bot to one extent or another. So people are using that and not even know that they're utilizing it. So that's pretty interesting. So even if we look at like AI, for instance, people are like, I don't even know what AI is or how I'm using AI. If you start typing in information within your Gmail and it starts to autofill for you, that's a simple version of AI. So those are things a lot that are already working in the background. People just don't see it, but that's kind of where we started doing that, because a lot of these big companies, a lot of them may not be using things that are in the cloud, and they're using bigger, more complex products, and there are several different types of products and legacy products within their company. So they have to build out ways to automate the integrations in those companies, the processes in those companies. And so that's where we, built a lot of bots. In that particular case, we just called the business process automation, different types of integrations, but building out those kind of bots or, macros on steroids to kind of help alleviate that, because, in a small business segment, you really don't see it. A lot of times they're okay with just trying to do those types of processes manually because it's a small outfit, not a lot of transactions. But when you get into really big enterprises, thousands and millions of transactions a day, you can't do any of that manually. You have to use some sort of automation to limit that. But that's where my journey, started doing that, helping develop those, helping to implement those, helping to design those.
Yeah.
Outside of just implementing the whole product itself, and then being a director of business for a couple of SaaS companies. That was also part of it, just building out those automations, and then going back to Sage for a few years. And then in the last 9-10 months, moving over to Oracle NetSuite. And, that's also a hot topic here. And so, that time at Sage to Wilton, speaking about earlier, that's where we wanted to bring on this technology to help. And it's gone, it's spread like wildfire across the whole accounting profession. for SMBs. And, a lot of that first initial year or two was just trying to educate the profession as to what was possible, because you can talk about use cases all day long, but you want to talk about high value use cases and just get their mind flowing and thinking about what's possible, so, and so it's been an amazing road to see where you guys are at and see now that the accounting profession, they're not just like, oh, thinking about, or wow, this buzzword of RPA, they know what it is, they understand it. Now, how do they put that into practice? And that's where they're at now, which is a really good place for the profession and for you guys as well. Yeah. So that's been my journey so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so now your journey so far, and so we're up to this point here. What would you say, just at the top of your head, what's the biggest problem that you solved or you've seen RPA solve?
Well, yeah, I think holistically, you always have to look at RPA like holistically, because it's not going to you can't think of it as to solve all the world's problems. Mm-hmm. It's going to really solve these legacy gaps that you have within these systems.
Right.
And that's where you have to think about it, because a lot of times people start to, and I think just even from a mindset, they're thinking, oh, this is going to solve all my problems. And even if you look at, for instance, artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, it's always going to have some sort of manual intervention. So, I think the biggest problems that this solves, and one of them Dimitri brought up, about bringing time to people. Time is a new gold, but I always focus on, a few different things of this. RPA actually allows for your company to focus on not only there's 6 different things, but first 3 pieces of it is to standardize to simplify your process, mm-hmm. then to standardize that process, and then to automate that process, whether it be through, simplify, standardize, and automate. And then the other part of that from more of a culture standpoint, it's the, us at Oracle, we use it, this methodology, as well as, Salesforce, a lot of the big companies, but it's focusing on that allows you then to focus on people, process, and then the tools or the technology in your business for that. So those are the 3 areas that I talk about quite significantly that really where this RPA really helps you solve problems. So, it's just the mindset of a company and helps them start thinking about redefining. I notice in a lot of companies that I implement around the world that, especially when they have different segments of the businesses, and they're all trying to standardize and simplify their processes when they move to a new system, it's really, really difficult. And so if they have a way that, for instance, an RPA or just a new implementation or migration that forces them to do that, that's where the value really comes, because you don't want to go in and start building a bot when you don't even know what your process is, right? And that's where you guys come in, because you say, look, you've got to simplify this process, and we're going to standardize it across all our segments of the business, and then we're going to build a bot to automate all this. So that's where those 3 pieces come into play. And then ultimately you can start focusing on the people in your business, the processes in your business, and the different types of tools once you've automated using RPA, different types of additional tools you can do. So it's really, it's a gateway drug, right?
Yeah.
To other bigger technologies.
Right.
Yeah. And I think there's so many companies out there that are looking to really okay, we got to figure out how to get there to really minimize all of our costs, automate what we can, so we can really focus on just the story of the business, whatever that is, right? And build on that. Excuse me. And I think so many are trying to figure that out, but there's so much out there right now, people get led down the wrong way so much time, causes a lot of delays for them to get to where they really need to get to, right? Because anybody can get there, but it's really making sure that you have the right information, because there's so much information out there. And most people when they try to do it on their own, we're guilty of it too, right? That it delays what you're capable of doing. But when you get the right technology, when you get the right people and the right technology, right people to help you with the technology to help you get there, is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you, what would you say to businesses that are looking to do that? And what do you think some of the steps they need to take in order to say, okay, you know what, almost like I need to release this part and just sort of, but where's that trust? And where would you tell them to start?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. I was right about to say, two things that I would always focus on is, as a business, make sure you have a good CPA or a good accountant, because they're going to be the storytellers and tell your business. They're the ones that can look at this business from a different perspective and tell you what historically it looks like, what it's going to look like from a forecast, runway, those types of things. And that in itself is really important. The other piece to that is data. You need to make sure you've got clean data. That's one of the biggest things when I'm bringing, new customers in to NetSuite, is to really take your time on cleaning up the data before you bring it into a new system, because RPA is only going to be as good as the data. If you've got, for instance, bad data in there, it's looking at specific types of values to make specific types of pivots in that automation. If that value's off, it's just not going to work well.
Yeah.
So those are things that I really have them focus on their business process. I have them focus on the data to make sure that's as sharp and clean as possible, because that ultimately your reporting is going to be off, your process is going to be off, you're going to get errors all over the place, nothing's going to make sense. So those two things, really focusing on clean data, clean process, and the folks that can help you with that are the best allies, is a good CPA or a good accountant.
Absolutely. And you hit it right on the spot, man, because the finances, the accountant part for us was like, when you start off, you start off with what you can, especially in accounting, right? And then you start growing, you start seeing, like, okay, you need now that the accounting is so important, it really is.
Oh yeah.
You're key. And that data is like, you have your numbers and your data right, game is over. Over.
I think a really good concept that everyone can, relate to is bank feed automation. Bank feeds, when you connect your bank feeds from your whatever system you're using, there's bot intelligence in there. So, and that serves two things. It serves that you have a good set of books. If your bank feed is solid with the correct rules that you set up to automate that bank feed information to go to the right GL accounts, right expense accounts, then that actually gets you, solid bookkeeping to start out a good foundation. But yeah, if you look at something like bank feed, that's a slow level form of RPA and artificial intelligence. So, those are the things that people use all day long. They have an idea that they're using, and that's a good concept of what can. But I think that in itself is, people are using these things throughout all day long, and as long as it's working for them, then they don't really need to know the behind the scenes. They just need to know how their business should be run.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. This is good. Yeah, you're listening to the RPA Show. We're here with Rafael Casas, and we're talking about RPA. We're talking about, he's dropping some nuggets here. I'm just let's clarify a couple things. So number one, if you're thinking about RPA, before you do that, there's three things you want to think about first. First, you want to simplify your process, then you want to standardize the process, then you want to automate. It's important that you write this down and do it that way. Simplifying it helps you understand it better. Standardize it, make sure that it's accurate and consistent, and then automate it means you don't have to look at it, and now you can go to the next thing. And then the two keys for any business: have a good CPA and clean data. Okay, start with those two things. Okay, those are the first two. I know there's more, but if you start with those two, I think the third one might show up. So that's how you impact the value trinity, which is increasing revenue, cutting costs, and expanding your market share. Rafael, thank you.
Yeah, of course. No, and I think the third one actually is to scale, because you can't scale really well without those two things. A good CPA is going to help you realize that vision, and bad data is not going to help you scale. It's going to put a lot of roadblocks in. You're not going to be able to really use RPA to the fullest extent. You're not going to be able to use automation to the fullest extent. I can give you a good example with a company that I worked with. For instance, they were trying to automate some type of, marketing in their ERP, but they didn't have any standardization to how the information comes in from leads, marketing leads, these custom fields all over the place. None of them made sense. They all had different types of values in them. So you couldn't report on them. So you couldn't automate on them, so you couldn't know what your marketing ROI is. You weren't able to see what the campaign actual values were. That's a lot of money that you're putting out there, and you don't know what that actually is translating to. So, these are actually things that your CPA will be able to help you figure out. And that's ultimately, once you start to clean that up, then you can start automating those things, all day long if you don't have the ability to do that. But, again, those are really, really important. I think ultimately it's just going to build a better culture.
Yeah. Because
you're able to really be forced to look at those processes. And I know you guys have that as part of your overall process of helping them. If they don't have someone, I know you have a business process, analyst within your team that'll actually help guide them through that. And that's really important too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's crazy is when you really focus, like you said, I can't tell you how important it is to really have a good accountant and the data. But the crazy thing about it is that data is going to allow you, when you know what doesn't work, you can change within minutes, right? And what works and what doesn't work, you can escalate within minutes. And you really can. And it's allowed us to do what we do, right? And it's just amazing to see how technology allows you to do it so much faster, and people really don't understand that. And when they do, you're right, that scale, that third one, that scale, it's so damn fast. That's why you see a lot of tech companies, they're saying, I went from 5 people to 20 to 100 in a year. How the hell you go to 100?
Yeah, right? Especially when you talk about like sensitive data, financial sensitive data.
Right.
The banking profession, banking industry, they're blowing up with using RPA, and it's funny when you think about when we had the PPP loans, that actually brought RPA to light because there was a lot of articles about it that folks were using RPA to submit applications for PPP so they could do it 100 times faster than someone manually. And the government caught on to that and said, you can't use bots for this. They shut down RPA. And we were kind of laughing, me and a few other friends, because we didn't think that they had the technology to understand that the RPA was being used in that. But that was actually,
wow.
They shut down RPA because of that. Those bots were robocalling kind of thing. Spin them out, getting those applications out.
Get it done. Like, what's going on right now?
But you look at even there's an article that came out from the banking industry that the over 30%, of that industry is actually not just thinking about it, but about to implement that in their day-to-day operations. So, that's a lot when it comes into that.
Wow.
You see it, and you see it so much. And when people understand it, it just takes off it just booms, because they see the value. They go from understanding it to really getting the benefits. And then when they see that value, it goes from way down here to like priority, because they see how fast it allows them to scale, to work and scale other parts of the business so much faster, so much faster.
Yeah, and it's not just a matter of getting clean data; it's maintaining it. It's almost like the same. It's almost the same thing as when a sports team or a sports guy is like, it's easy to become a champion. It's much harder to stay the champion.
Champion.
Right.
So that's, you want the champion to be, champion be your data. So that's where RPA is really helpful as well, and making sure that you have these rigid rule sets and making sure that there's no human error on the data that's coming in. So there's several ways you can do that, especially you can add conditional values within your ERP system, with any system you have, if it has the ability to. But if it doesn't, that's where RPA comes into play. A lot of them aren't sophisticated enough until you go into the more larger, more expensive ERP systems. But those are things that are really helpful. So it's not just making data the champion, but keeping that championship belt as data.
Yes, keeping it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Rafael, so tell me this. We're coming in for landing our last couple questions here. Now, this is a big one though, and we ask every guest this because RPA obviously less than 2% of small and medium-sized business owners even know it exists. Enterprise world is aware of it, but the small and medium-sized folks, it's not really on their radar. And then when it gets on their radar, it's so foreign, they also get paralysis analysis and never take a step because they're overthinking. What would you say to a small or medium-sized business owner who's on the fence about RPA? What would you say to them that maybe can shed some light, perspective on them, that maybe have them take a look at it a little bit deeper?
Yeah, so I've talked about this a lot in just previous sessions that I've done, but it really is, it's like getting a new phone or a new watch. You just got to play with it. There's a lot of free community editions out there, like Electronic, who's your partner and who I kind of really supported from the beginning, that they themselves are really supportive of SMB or small business. So what I would suggest is going on these free trials. These are not even free trials, but some of these are actually community editions, which are free. And what's great about Electronics Community Edition is actually it's so stable as opposed to other community editions that for other RPA vendors, that you can actually use it in production. But the best thing to do is just start educating yourself, taking these smaller university courses to understand the concept and to play with these tools. A lot of these tools are, especially Electronics, is extremely user-friendly. It's almost like a business intelligence tool where you can drag and drop different types of functions. But the best thing is just to experiment, to start experimenting. And that's, I think, the biggest value for these small businesses is to just get intellectual curiosity in under their belts, to start playing around with these tools. Once they start feeling comfortable, then put it into place and start with something really small to automate. And this is something that I talk when a lot of accountants were having that type of fear around it, or what this was, or how to use it. Slowly I noticed within 6 months, 9 months, that the accounts that I was speaking to that wanted more consultation, they weren't afraid of it. They were actually using a bunch of different community editions already, and now trying to figure out what's going to be the best fit for them. So that's where it's at now, and that's where the SMBs, small businesses, can do a lot of when I did partnership stuff with Maryland CPA. A lot of those technologists we're talking about from a small business standpoint or accountant standpoint, because accountants had issues with this too and still do, is set like an hour a week to just look at new technology that's out there.
Exactly.
Set an hour a week to just put it to say, I want to focus on just researching technology that's out there and seeing what could work, or what catches my eye, or what could even fit for my business. So that's something that you can do.
Hold on. Say that, everybody listening right now, say that, how much time a week do you need to put in this to even start to really understand how fast you can get on your pace to get going on this automation? How much time a week?
I would say just spend 1 hour a week to just look
at
what technologies exist out there, look at what RPA does. A thing that's really going to help you is that you guys have this on your website. Electronic has this, but it shows to get your mind thinking about what's possible is all their bot library. You have a bot library of all these use cases that are already available that can be implemented, and you'd be like, oh, okay, this is similar to what I'm experiencing as a roadblock in my business. I could easily pivot some of these things here. They're all essentially really kind of workflow processes that's what it comes down to. So, but yeah, that's the biggest thing, of just setting time aside to learn more about these technologies, to see what technologies are prevailing, and seeing some of these successes and pitfalls. You want to learn at the pros and cons. You want to really look at not just the pros and the champions, but you also want to look at, it's like you're going on Rotten Tomatoes. You want to see what the positive and negative
Right.
results are, and
Right.
that way you can make a good decision. You don't want to, you want to really. That's also a good, I would say, a good exercise for how you should treat things in your business. Look at the pros and cons and figure that out.
And all those things you're talking about right now are, there's so many great resources out there. In fact, everything you're talking about right now, all these resources you're talking about right now, we're going to put into the body of wherever those videos are going to be going, so everybody can know. Just click somewhere on here. There's all these you're talking about. All these resources are going to be there. Speaking of resources, where's the best place to get a hold of you for what you're doing? Speak about what you're doing, so we can make sure that people that are listening, could take full advantage of the true talent and knowledge you have.
Yeah, I mean, my email address is just rafael.casas@oracle.com, but I would suggest really going through electronic.com, and looking at all the resources they have, because they have a ton of free resources, free education, to even get free certifications from not just citizen automation, which is like the first level, but more expert automation. That actually was probably the best course I've seen when it comes to just understanding overall from a simplified manner what this is. And then it allows you to build a good base to what it can be for your business. So, I would suggest going and just educating yourself and going through that. I think that's the biggest proponent into you being successful, is just, learning about these technologies, learning what they do.
Yeah, awesome. And so we're definitely going to put your email in there so they can contact you. When you say about Electronique, is his friend, our amazing partner. We're definitely going to put them out there, because what they're doing is something it's I won't say game changing. It's like world changing.
Really?
It's like, it really is. And we happen to be able to build something that allows us to be able to tap into this whole world from what they built. And we have a team that's mastering it, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, so shout out to them. We'll put all the information in there. We'll put your information. Any last words that you want to talk about before we call it a cast?
I think one good tagline would be, just from an RPA perspective, is like, just to set expectation, is the RPA is not here to save you, it's here to enable you. So, I think people have a pretty bad expectation from things that have maybe old marketing stuff, that something like RPA, like bots in artificial intelligence, is here to save you and do everything for you. It's not. It's here to enable you to get to a level where you can scale and you can have, more time. Any of these things are never going to be perfect. They're only going to be, especially from a bot perspective, they're only going to be as perfect as the person that built out those processes for their business. So, that's one thing that I've always wanted to take away, or what I've seen, is that, it's not here to save your business per se from an end all be all. It's here to enable your business, enable you as a business.
Yeah. That's good stuff right
That's
there.
great stuff. That's great stuff.
Casas, man. Thank you for being on the show, my friend. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and helping people and businesses, level up.
Yes, sir,
Ladies
brother.
and gentlemen,
Thank you.
You are listening to or watching the RPA Show. The show where you just might learn something you didn't know. Until next time, we'll see you next time.